What's up everyone, Andrew Bainey here, and on today's video we are going to be doing a demo of this beautiful guitar I have from Illuminati Guitars. This model in particular is called the Orion guitar, and this is the Dark Matter edition, which is called that because it has this awesome clear finish on it that you can actually see through. Let's see if you can see it on Bcam. Hello! In addition to that, this is also a baritone guitar clocking in at an awesome 27.75 inches for the scale length. It's one of the first baritone offerings that Illuminati has done, and I'm super honored to be one of the first people, probably the first person on YouTube to be able to do a demo of this beautiful instrument. So if you've never seen one of my demos before, what I like to do first and foremost is show you what this guitar sounds like in a full demo mix. Then we're going to come back, talk about the specs and features of this instrument, and then show you a few different sound clips of the guitar by itself, because I know not everyone likes to hear it in a fully polished mix, which totally makes sense. So I'm just going to jam out on this guitar a little bit after that. And then last but not least, of course, I will talk about my thoughts and opinions on this guitar. Now, of course, this video is sponsored since Illuminati Guitars did send this over to me. However, like always, I try to be as unbiased as possible and give you all the details and the facts as they are. So with that being said, let's get on to the full demo mix of this instrument. I have it currently tuned to a weird tuning, but it's basically drop E with dissonant strings on the top, because I will be covering a song from one of my favorite bands, Humanity's Last Breath, and they use a very strange tuning, which is as follows: E, B, E, A, G sharp, A. So the top three strings are just dissonant. It's a bit weird, but it sounds awesome, trust me. So for this demo, I will be playing a song called Glutton from Humanity's Last Breath, and it sounds like this. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed the full demo mix of the Orion guitar. Now we're going to talk about the specs and features of this instrument. So obviously this is a pretty unique looking guitar due to a couple of different things that are going on. First and foremost is obviously the neck is made out of aluminum, hence the name Illuminati. Get it? Aluminum, Illuminati. So while we're on the topic of aluminum, we'll start off with the neck here, which is of course made out of aluminum, and this is a hollow core nebula neck. This one in particular has the polished finish to it, which you can tell because of all my beautiful fingerprints all over it. And mine, of course, also has the black inlay material, as you can see right there. This one in particular is a 27.75-inch baritone scale length, as I mentioned earlier, and it has a 12-inch radius on the neck. Final two things about the neck, as you can see on the back there, it has Spurzle locking tuners and also this awesome headstock, which is completely see-through and has a big chunk of it cut out, which is for two reasons. Number one, because it looks cool, and number two, because it actually provides a bit of weight relief so that when you're playing with a strap, it doesn't neck dive. Moving on to the body of this guitar, as you can see, like I mentioned earlier, it is a clear body. You can see my hand right through it. This one also has green LEDs because the kind folks over at Illuminati knew how much I liked green, so they threw those in there for me. This is a material called lucite, which has been 3D milled for this guitar. For controls, we have a switch down here which turns the lights on or off, as you can see there, and then a volume and a tone knob. Both are 500K pots, and then it also has a three-way pickup selector on the bottom horn right here. Flipping over to the back of the guitar, you can completely see through it, and you can see that these are Lawler DB pickups, which have been rear mounted to the guitar, which is a nice added feature. So you can see that there are no screw mounts on the top through the pickguard, which is really cool because you can adjust them on the back right there. And last but not least, for the hardware, we have a black anodized steel pickguard, and then Illuminati's own design of bridge, which is also a solid block of aluminum with their logo down there, and then Graphtec string saver saddles in that bridge. So those are the specs of the model that I have in particular here. However, if you go over to Illuminati's website, which is linked in the description and the pinned comment below, you can see that there's a few different options, like different headstock options and a different finish available for the neck and body. If you don't want the clear body, or you want like not the polished neck, which I kind of wish I did now, seeing how many fingerprints there are, but hey, that's my own fault. So the last thing I wanted to mention before we move on to the sounds of this guitar is the actual weight of the instrument. So this guitar is not unnecessarily heavy. It's definitely on the heavier side, but nothing that is ridiculous. This one in particular weighs about 8.5 to 9 pounds. So, you know, it's definitely heavier than like a chambered Swamp Ash guitar or something like that, but it's not too much heavier than like a traditional Les Paul or something like that. So that's a nice feature as well. And I thought that was worth mentioning because I know when you see an aluminum neck and a clear body, a lot of people think of like acrylic or something like that, which is very, very heavy, but I'm happy to say that this one isn't ridiculously heavy. It's on the heavier side, but still well within the range of what you would expect for a guitar in general. For my reference, it weighs pretty much the same amount as my Evertune equipped Solar 8-string guitar. Okay, so now that we got the specs and features out of the way, what I'm going to do is plug in and give you some of the sounds direct from this guitar, focusing of course on heavy riffs and high gain tones, and it sounds like this. Okay, and now last but not least, I'm going to talk about my thoughts and opinions on this guitar. So first and foremost, obviously by now you know this guitar definitely comes with a hefty price point, so it is definitely quite up there in terms of how expensive it is, but you are getting a very unique instrument that really I have never seen any other company do. I've seen a few companies that make full aluminum builds or just aluminum necks, but I've never seen the combination of a clear body with an aluminum neck plus a baritone. Just a bunch of really cool, unique features that are very specific to this guitar. And, you know, the price reflects that, I would say. And I think that the price is fair given that you're getting basically a custom instrument and you have a few different spec options. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair. I personally really like how this guitar sounds. Due to the materials and the pickups, I definitely found that it gave me a lot more mid-range than I'm used to in other guitars. But I'm actually a really big fan of mids, so I like that. And for once in my life, I actually had to turn down the mids on my amp, which normally I have cranked pretty high because this guitar just has a ton of mid-range bite, which I personally really like. So it sounds a little bit unique to these materials and this guitar brand in particular, and I thought it sounded really cool. Everything about the fit and finish of this guitar also feels really good. The fret ends are perfectly smooth as you would expect, and again, due to it being made out of aluminum and lucite, there actually is no truss rod at all included because you should never ever need to worry about the neck moving due to temperature changes or anything like that because it's not made out of wood. Wood shrinks and expands, these materials don't, so that is an awesome feature and will help reduce the amount of setup time or messing around with the setup depending on the weather or anything like that. So it's just a very stable guitar, and again, obviously just looks ridiculously cool. Another really cool feature about this guitar that I actually forgot to mention is that the nut is completely replaceable. As you can see on the back of the neck, there are two screw holes here, so you can actually take off the brass nut and put on an alternate, which is what I did. So I now have two different nuts, so if I want to change this guitar back to the original tuning, I still have that nut and I don't need to worry about resetting it up. You just take the strings off, swap the nut, and put on different string gauges, and it should work basically right away. So those are all pros, and I do want to talk about the cons of this guitar. In my opinion, there's really only one, which I didn't actually notice until the other day when I picked this guitar back up from my tech. So basically, Illuminati makes their own bridge design, which you can see down here, and combines that with the Graph Tech string saver saddles here. And an issue that my tech actually noticed is that due to the bridge design being rounded, as you can see there, whereas the saddles are squared, you actually can't get the saddles back any farther in the bridge than this on the low string. Now for 99.9% of people, that probably doesn't really matter because most people probably aren't going to tune as ridiculously low as I do. However, in my case, since I wanted to use an 80 and tune it down to drop E, if I had a little bit more wiggle room for intonation, that would have been awesome. And I'm really happy to say that working with Illuminati has been an absolute joy. And I told them about this issue yesterday, and they actually replied right away, took a screenshot of the picture that I sent them, and they said that from now on, all of their baritone guitars are going to have larger space for intonation. So it's always really nice when companies send me a guitar and I give them actual meaningful feedback and they take it. You know, they didn't make any excuses. They were just like, hey, we never thought of that. And that's why they wanted to send me a guitar, because they want to make sure that their guitars work for all different playing styles, all different genres, and all different type of people, because everyone wants something different. Everyone uses slightly different strings, and it's got to work for every situation. So I'm very happy to report that Illuminati listened to that feedback and they will be implementing that for all future baritone builds. So kind of a pretty happy story for the only con that I could really find about this guitar. So I don't even know if I would really call it a con, because if you order one, that's not going to be an issue anymore, and I'm really happy to say that. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to go check out the link in the description and the pinned comment below for any details I might have missed, or to just check out everything else that Illuminati Guitars has to offer. Again, a massive thank you to them for sending this guitar over. It's been an absolute joy playing this guitar so far, and I look forward to making many more videos with it. And it's also just really cool to add to my collection because it's definitely one of the most unique looking guitars that I own, and I love it. So again, big thank you to Illuminati Guitars for sponsoring this video, sending this over, and also a big thank you to all my Patreon members whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you're interested in audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, or a shout out on the screen, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page, which is also linked in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to reading your comments. Be sure to stick around for my channel for this guitar appearing in many more videos in the near future, and I'll see you later.